What's up, guys? I'm here at my local regional airport and I just passed the Part 107 exam, so it's all fresh on my mind. What I want to do is kind of take a few minutes and discuss some of the things that I saw on it, some things that kind of took me by surprise that were not on some of these big audio studio guides like Gary Glenn or Tony and Chelsea Northrup's, like some of the things that were not on their study guides, I think because of age and lack of relevance. So what I'm going to try to do is talk about some of those questions that I saw and maybe help prepare some of you guys who are about to take your Part 107 exam.
Okay, let me tell you a little bit about the exam, and then I'm going to tell you how I prepared for the exam, and then I'm going to give you 12 questions that were on the exam that I was completely unprepared for. But let me tell you about the exam. First and foremost, the exam, you'll go to a local airport, a testing center, and you can discover, on the website, FAA website, how you register for. I'm not going to go into all the registration process, but at my testing center, it was $150 non-refundable. So if I failed, I don't get that money back. I have to retake it. I go to a local airport. I get there on time, about 15 minutes in advance. My airport was a small regional airport. There was about 4 other people in the testing center. I was checked in. I was briefed on the protocols of taking the test and all the different rules. I was given an Airmen supplement, which had all the sectional charts in it. And then I was, put in a booth and put before a computer screen. I was given 4 sheets of scrap paper, a pencil, and a 4-function calculator. All that was provided by the testing center. Now, how I prepared for the test. I watched Tony and Chelsea Northrup's video about 2 times through, and I took some notes, just wrote some things down, and then I watched Gary Glenn's video 2 times as well. But that really prepared me well. However, I could have done a lot better. I passed with just only an 80 out of 100. You needed 70% to pass, and I got it 80%. And I think these 12 questions are where I went wrong. And so I wanted to share them with you because those videos I used are already 3 or 4 years old, and there's already some legislation that has kind of come down from the federal government, from the FAA, that has kind of made those videos somewhat dated, I guess you could say. So like I said, the test is 60 questions long, and you have to answer 40 of those correctly. One of the questions that really tripped me up, now I'm a history teacher, high school history teacher. I'm not a pilot. I'm not into aviation. I'm a YouTube creator on the side, and I want to fly my drone for YouTube purposes. So I know very little about the aviation world, but it's been interesting learning about it all. But one of the questions that was asked was, what is the purpose of the rudder on an aircraft? Now, my extent of aviation knowledge really is just building model airplanes and then throwing them off the balcony behind my house as a child. That's the extent of my knowledge. So I overthought this question, and here are the 3 options that they gave me. Is it to help with pitch, yaw, or roll? So I was really overthinking it, and I was thinking, okay, pitch. I know pitch is up and down the nose control. Yaw, I don't really know what yaw is, but I know that roll is rolling, on a horizontal axis. So I didn't know for sure, and my best frame of reference was sailing, because I know how to sail. So I remember the keel, the dagger board that you shove down into the middle of a sailboat. Its purpose, it's kind of like an upside down rudder to me. So I thought maybe that helps with roll, because that's the purpose with a sailboat, is to roll. However, I was mixed up on my terminology, because let me go to this next chart and I'll show you why. Here is for this from NASA. It shows the vertical stabilizer and the rudder. So I was thinking the whole time about the vertical stabilizer. What is the role of the vertical stabilizer? And I was right. The vertical stabilizer helps control roll. However, the rudder is different, and I didn't know that there's 2 different things there. The rudder flap actually controls the yaw. Let me show y'all. I'm in Alabama, so I can say yaw really well. But here is the rudder, and it controls the yaw. The yaw is moving the nose to the left and Y plane on the horizontal axis. That's the point of the rudder, okay? So some of you probably already know that. I know I'm crazy for not realizing that, but I just got confused. I didn't know that there was a difference between the vertical stabilizer and the rudder. Some of you probably don't know that either, so hopefully this helped you out. Question number 2 out of 12. How far from an airport does Class D airspace reach? 10, 20, 30 miles? And here's the answer. And I didn't see this option on the test, so I was really confused. I selected 10 miles, but I'm not sure because after researching it, when I got home, the answer seems like a variable answer. It really just depends on a lot of different things. One of the biggest things is like geographical features around the Class D airspace. Class D airspace is usually like a regional airport, and it is a straight cylinder that goes up. It's not like your Class B or C that has the upside down wedding cake. It's just a cylinder that goes straight up. How far out does that emanate horizontally from the airport? It really just depends on a lot of different factors, and one of those biggest factors is the geographical features. So that one really tripped me up. So maybe you guys can get ready for that a little bit better than I was. I didn't know the answer to that. Here's number 3. When weather reports refer to the ceiling of a cloud cover, what type of cloud cover does that refer to? This is a question that I didn't know the answer to. And it gave me options like broken, thick cloud cover, scattered clouds. And here's the answer that I found on the FAA's website. The ceiling refers to the height of the lowest layer of clouds above the surface that are either broken or overcast, but not thin. Okay? Be familiar with the terminology of the ceiling. Here is another question that really tripped me up. What are the only kind of clouds mentioned on a TAF weather report? If you recall, you have METAR and you have TAF, and you do want to be familiar. I had several questions concerning METAR and TAF, so be familiar with how to read each of those. But what are the only kinds of clouds mentioned on the TAF? That one really tripped me up. I was not ready for that. Is it broken, thick cloud cover, scattered clouds? And here's an example of a TAF report. As you can see, you got KRNO, that's the airport location, RNO, and then you've got the date and time the TAF was pulled, and it keeps going on and going on. So then you have wind, you have visibility, but here's the cloud cover in this TAF report: scattered 060, and it drops off 200, or drops off 20, so that'd be scattered, starting at 600 feet above ground level. And so I was like, scattered. Maybe it mentions scattered. But here's kind of the legend for all that. This is a TAF legend, okay? And it shows. So here's section 8 on this sample TAF, and here is the explanation for section 8. And it shows you got cloud description: few, scattered, broken, overcast. So this didn't help me much because I was like, how, it seems like a lot of different clouds are mentioned on this. So I don't, if you get this question, I hope that you're better prepared for it than I was, because I didn't fully know the answer, nor do I really know the answer today, just because I see on this sample TAF that there can be the possibility for scattered, broken, and overcast clouds. Now, I don't know if they're talking about, are you looking for nimbus, cumulonimbus, or those sorts of things. So maybe you can comment down below if you know the answer, just to help other people out who are watching this. Maybe there's a particular type of cloud they're looking for and not necessarily the orientation of those clouds. But comment down below if you know the answer, because I did not, nor was I able to discover the answer post-research. But here's another question I had on the test that really confused me. On a METAR report, the remarks section reads RAB35. What does this mean? So I could kind of deduce that RAB probably means rain began, 35, and I thought, okay, that's probably 35. So what does this mean? RAB means rain began at HHMM, RAB 1421, or as a minimum past hour. So RAB 21. So just be familiar with that. So like here's an example, METAR, and this is actually verbatim one of the questions that I had on this test. I wasn't prepared to know and understand remarks, because I didn't think that we would have to know remarks that well, but apparently we do. One of the questions I got, like I said, was talking about the remarks. So the remarks section for KMDW has RAB 35 listed. This entry means ... So I didn't know what else to do with this, but I knew, okay, I come up to KMDW, find that METAR report, KMDW, and here's the remark, RMK, remark, RAB 35. What does that mean? All that means is that the rain began 35 minutes after the hour. And what is the hour? Well, it says it right here at 1856 Zulu. 1856 Zulu. See that? So that means that the rain began 35 minutes after 1800 or 1835. So you want to just kind of be familiar with that, the remarks section and the RAB 35 and what that implies. All right, how does a manned aircraft enter the airspace of an airport? This was a really tough question. And I knew I'd get a question like this, and I knew that I would not do well on it. But here it is. Hopefully I can better prepare you guys. Here are the options. Best of my memory, here's what I saw as options. A, it crosses directly over in the airport and then enters the downwind leg. B, it enters at a 45-degree angle at the base leg. C, it enters at 45 degrees at the downwind leg. There's no visuals for this in the supplement that I could tell. I flipped through that thing very frantically looking through that supplement, and I could not find any kind of chart or visual. They just want you to know this, apparently. So I did go to the FAA's website this morning, and I found this visual, and it shows you got your wind direction here coming in. You've got entry. Here's entry of an aircraft into the flight patterns. It's entering downwind, so it's entering with the wind at a 45-degree angle, okay? And then it's going to hang a left, and it's going to hang a left. It's making its final approach, and that's it. So let's review. It's entering the airspace downwind at a 45-degree angle, okay? Let's go to another one. This is right-hand traffic pattern. So here's your wind direction. All right, here's your entry. So the aircraft is entering in at a 45-degree angle in the downwind leg, and it's going to turn right. Then it's going to turn right again. So then it's going to make its final approach. So let's go back to our question and see which answer sounds the most likely. A, it crosses directly over an airport and then enters the downwind leg. No, it doesn't cross over the airport. B, it enters at a 45-degree at the base leg. No, it doesn't do that at the base leg either. C, it enters at a 45-degree angle at the downwind leg. That is correct. Option C. See, it enters at 45-degree and downwind. And then aircraft is always going to land into the wind and take off into the wind as well. All right. So that's another question. I hope that you want to be familiar with that traffic pattern. But this is just something from the FAA's website that kind of validates what I just told you. All right. If you're inspecting the lithium-ion battery of your UAS or your drone and you notice distortion on the battery, and distortion, I'd interpret that in the test. I interpreted that as being like swelling or it being misshapen. You should. Now let's pause here. I think this is probably a newer question because you got to remember the FAA probably makes all these exams probably back from like the 90s and early 2000s when it was just a bunch of old dudes out with model airplanes flying around in a field somewhere, and now they're trying to kind of push in all these new questions about lithium ion and all kinds of, so this is probably a very new question. You probably won't see it on any of the audio study guides that I've seen on YouTube, but I looked it up. I didn't know the answer definitively, but I knew probably what they're looking for, and I think I got this one right. And I did. I selected it, the correct answer. So we see our lithium-ion battery is swelling or it's misshapen somehow. They're going to try to trick us, okay? The FAA does not want you flying a drone with a swollen lithium-ion battery, nor is that a good idea to fly your drone with a swollen lithium-ion battery, because lithium-ion batteries they can be potentially dangerous and they're very volatile, especially when they come in contact with any kind of oxygen or something like that. They can explode, they can start a fire. The last thing the FAA wants is for a firebomb to fall out of the sky and land on someone's windshield or something like that, okay? So you have to think how the FAA is trying to think, okay? So do you A, allow the battery to discharge, recharge it, and then fly the UAS? No, you're not going to do that, okay? B, do you assess what repairs need to be made to the aircraft? Sounds a little bit more likely. C, do you allow the battery to cool down and then fly the aircraft? No, you don't do that either. See, the FAA is trying to trick you with this, and they're trying to make it, basically, here's what they want you to do. This is an advisory circular that I found from 2016, and here's what it says about distorted batteries. Battery casing distorted or bulging. Further inspect to determine integrity of the battery as a reliable power source. Distorted battery casings may indicate impending failure, resulting in abrupt power loss or explosion. An electrical hazard may be present, posing a risk of fire or extreme heat, negatively impacting aircraft structures, aircraft performance, characteristics, and flight duration. Assess the need and extent of repairs that may be needed for continued safe flight. Okay, so they want you to go and they want you to like contact the company and say like, hey, can you send me a new battery? They don't want you flying with that battery, basically, is what the FAA is trying to sell you. So option B is the one you want to go with. Assess what repairs need to be made. I selected that one because I was like, yeah, I'm trying to think like a nanny state here, right? You know, and that's what they want you to do. They don't want you to fly that drone with a distorted battery, nor is it a good idea to do so. Okay. How do you appropriately operate your UAS, your drone, in an active military operation area? Now, this one was hard for me. I overthought this question as well, and I think I got this one wrong. Do you A, operate with extreme caution? B, do you not operate in the UAS at all? C, do you get prior authorization or a certificate waiver before operating? Now, this one I overthought. I flagged this one. I came back to it multiple times, and I was like, it's going to drive me crazy. I could not remember a military operation area, how you were supposed to operate a UAS. I'm around a lot of military operation areas, and I don't really, I would just never fly my drone in a military operation area. Just never would do it, because a lot of it is air traffic, like helicopter traffic and stuff like that, and I don't want to even go near it with my drone. So I selected you should not operate the UAS at all, but I got it wrong, and here's why. This is from the FAA's website. Basically, to kind of summarize all this, and you can pause it and read it if you want to. I'm not going to read it all, but basically they just want you to, let me find the answer here for you real quick. Pilots operating under VFR, like a drone pilot, should exercise extreme caution while flying within an MOA when military activity is being conducted. So that surprised me because I was like, wow, the FAA is apparently okay with you flying in an active MOA as long as you're flying with extreme caution. So that's the answer to that. Let's go back to our question and answer this. Do you operate with extreme caution? B, don't do it at all. C, do you have to get prior authorization? A, operate with extreme caution. Okay? So I hope that better prepares you for that question. I was very ill prepared and I overthought that question and I think I got it wrong. Here's another example of a question that really tripped me up on this test. See section blank of the supplemental chart that they give you. Where would you look to find information on what kind of activity is allowed in these areas or this area? And you'll have this like restricted site here. You can see in the legend that this is a restricted area, right? But I don't know, like, where do I go to find information about what is going on? Is it artillery? Is it like a bombing range for like, F-16s? I have no idea. But where do I go to find that information? Best thing I can tell you when it comes to the restricted area, if right here, section 1.3.2.1, if the restricted area is not active and has been released to the controlling agency, the ATC facility will allow the aircraft to operate in the restricted airspace without issuing specific clearance for it to do so. So the best thing I can tell you is to contact the air traffic control facility that would fall under, have the jurisdiction over this restricted area, and get more information about that restricted area from ATC. All right, next question. To whom are you required to show your Part 107 UAS certificate upon request? A, an FAA official. B, local law enforcement upon request. C, anyone in authority. So let's just set up a scenario here. You're flying your drone on the side of the road, doing it completely legally or even illegally, and you're there and someone calls the police on you. And a police officer rolls up and he's like, hey, land your drone. We need to talk. So you land your drone and he's like, why are you doing this? And you're like, well, I'm taking photographs for real estate purposes. The police officer might say, okay, do you have authorization to do this? Are you a commercial pilot? Are you a commercial UAS pilot? Well, are you then obligated to show them that little plastic card that the FAA has sent you, your little certificate? The answer is yes, you are obligated to show them that certificate. I mean, don't be a jerk. Just show them the certificate anyways. I mean, come on. Well, local law enforcement has paired up and teamed with the FAA. The FAA is basically giving them authorization and deputizing them, so to speak, to ask for proof that you're flying your drone legally. And here is kind of a note card that they're giving to local law enforcement officers. They'd say, we want you to use this drone acronym if you come across somebody who's flying a drone. Detect all available elements of the situation. Attempt to locate and identify individuals operating the drone, okay? Report the incident to the FAA Regional Operations Center. Follow-up assistance can be obtained, okay? Observe the UAS and maintain visibility of the device. Look for damage or injured individuals. And they even say, look, the battery is only 20 or 30 minutes flight time, so just wait around for 20 or 30 minutes. You'll see it land, and you'll see somebody go over there and pick it up. Notice features, identify the type of device, its size, blah, blah, blah. Execute appropriate police action. So here's what we're talking about. Maintain a safe environment for general public and first responders. Conduct a field interview and document all details of the event per guidance provided by the FAA. So they want law enforcement basically to have the authority to go and ask for specific documents to prove that you're flying your drone legally, and your Part 107 certificate is one of those documents, okay? So just be prepared to present that. Don't be a jerk. Don't start an argument. Don't get yourself in deeper trouble because you're not being compliant with local law enforcement, okay? Here's another question. Which of the following reasons would cause a NOTAM to be issued? A NOTAM is a notice to airmen, and here are some of the options. They had like a sporting event, or they had some other things like sudden change in weather. Here's where NOTAMs are issued and why NOTAMs are issued. And this is a question I wasn't completely prepared for. Closed runways, hazards such as air shows, parachute jumps, lasers, rocket launches, flights by important people such as heads of state, inoperable radio navigation aids, and so on, okay? So just be familiar with why those things are issued. It's important you know that. Here's one, significant change in volcanic ash. And be familiar with the Pave acronym, P-A-V-E. They want you to know the Pave acronym because it's important that you use this to mitigate, any sort of like risk or danger as you're flying your aircraft. So think about pilot. You go through this little checklist here as you're about to take your drone off. Aircraft, you go through this little checklist here. Environment, so you look at your environment, you check your weather, airport conditions, and so on, okay? But be familiar with this acronym because I did have a question on this, and they want you to kind of know what the different letters stand for. So be prepared for that. All right. Well, guys, I hope this little study guide, this short study guide, helps you out and it better equips you for the test and, helps you get a better score than what I got. But I think if you watch Tony Northrop's video and Gary Glenn's video a couple times and a couple other supplemental videos like mine that are a little bit more current and up to date, I think you'll do fine. But if you appreciate this video, just go ahead and give me a thumbs up and subscribe because we put out some cool content. See you guys.